Okay, I think we're ready to go. I think that's the majority of people now on the call. So thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time out today to join us. I'm just going to give some introductions and to set the scene for today before we hand over to everybody. Just from a question and answer perspective, I'm sure there's going to be a number of people who are going to have questions throughout the session. We have got a channel, question and answer. If you do have any questions, by all means, please put them in that particular channel, not into the chat, and we will try and answer those as we go along. If not, we've allocated 5 to 10 minutes at the end where we will run through any questions that haven't been answered, or if there's anything else anybody wants to know, we can cover that off at the very end. So today we've got myself. I'm an account director at Excutech. We've got my colleague Hugh Pope, who's also from a business development side at Excutech, and we've got Ray, who is one of our AI consultants, who is going to be delivering a live demonstration of the charity Copilot agent. So for today's agenda, I'm going to be doing the introductions, and then Hugh is going to brief us on how AI is changing the sector, some of the things that we've noticed in working with charitable organisations with this particular type of technology. And then for the really exciting bit, Ray is going to provide a live demonstration of walkthrough of Copilot. He's going to provide a little bit of background around Copilot, what it is, how it works, some of the technology and security. We're going to talk about some of the best practice approaches, how you should be deploying it, and then we're actually going to provide a live demo and some specific use cases for you all. And then we've got the question and answers at the end. So in relation to us, Excutech, we are a Microsoft partner. So everything we do is end-to-end Microsoft. We're one of the UK's most accredited Microsoft partners, and that obviously really sets us apart from a lot of the competitors. And we're specifically working with the charity sector. So there's a number of organisations that we're working with, from very large charitable organisations to some of the smaller companies that you may not have heard of. So what I will do now is I'm going to hand over to my colleague Hugh, who's going to give us a little bit of an insight as to some of the things that we've noticed within the charity sector and AI technology. Thanks, Hugh.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I would say great to meet you all, but there's too many of you to do that individually. So I do want to keep this brief before we get into the interesting stuff with Ray, but really to keep it high level, we are beginning to see how AI is redefining how the charity sector operates. And we know that charities have always been stretched thin. That isn't getting any easier, whilst balancing limited resources against rising demand. We would say that AI isn't going to replace people. This isn't about taking jobs. It's about enhancing what you can achieve by doing things like automating repetitive work, uncovering insights, and yeah, really what we call creating space for deeper human connection. So it's about enhancing what you do rather than replacing what you do. And I think that was always one of the big fears that we hear time and time again with AIs. I think there's been a lot of fear mongering, and that's, yeah, hopefully we can dispel some of that. So this is where we're already seeing some of the opportunities for charities with AI. So for things like admin automation, all the way through to advanced analytics, it is helping teams spend less time on manual work and more on the mission. We obviously are Microsoft centric, and we hope that you are too, but we're seeing a lot of the Microsoft tools playing a key role here, especially Copilot, and that is feeding into things like Dynamics, and then all the way into Azure AI, where you're really kind of bringing enterprise-grade capability, and that's hitting everyone from very small charities who are very focused on a kind of a niche mission, to sort of the large enterprise-grade charities who are operating internationally, and that ability to scale up and down is what's really quite exciting about the Microsoft tech stack, and how applicable it is, regardless of the size of the organization. There'll be a process that you can take advantage of that will free up time. Yeah, so in terms of the Microsoft solution, so we're looking at things like Copilot, Dynamics 365, and that's really kind of where you get into the donor management, process automation, finance, at a price point that's a lot more assertive, can I say, for non-profits. And we're also looking at things like accessibility, which was a real big push for Microsoft a few years ago, which we're starting to see come back, as well as things like Power BI, which has been around for a while, but it remains a brilliant way of kind of accessing and surfacing analytics. I know it's very dry, but effectively what we're saying is there's a huge amount of tooling available to you as a non-profit at a price point that is pretty unbeatable, really. We do know there's challenges in this. Of course, we know adoption isn't straightforward. Many charities do hold personal sensitive data, particularly if you deal with health or if you deal with children, or really anyone where you're holding personally identifiable data. So security and governance are going to be critical to that. We also know that there's skills and confidence being a barrier, and I think we try and tackle that sensitively because we know it is a bit of a challenge, and we want to help people bridge that. So if we can teach people the confidence, then that skills gap will start to close itself. We also know there's things like funding constraints, and that's where we can box really clever with Microsoft, with licensing, with freeing up money. And I think finally, there's also a little bit of change resistance. So we do know that there's cultural and operational barriers to adoption. And that's why we want to really stress the point that this is about freeing you up to focus on the reason that you work for a charity rather than replacing you. And I think that if we can kind of make that clear, then it becomes a lot clearer as to why we think this is a really good thing and why Microsoft are pushing so hard for this. So anyway, the good news is that solutions are emerging quickly. Microsoft Cloud for Nonprofit delivers affordable access to secure AI tools. A responsible AI framework sets ethical guardrails, and with low-code platforms like Power Apps, Power BI, even small teams can build practical data-driven tools. Bit of waffle there from me, but the goal is simple: to help charities innovate safely, sustainably, and with purpose. So that's all from me. I'm going to stop talking now and hand back over to Ray.
Thank you, Hugh, and thank you, everyone. I'll take it over from here, and let's just start getting deeper into what Copilot is, how it works, what's the benefit behind it, a couple of technical aspects in terms of security, and we'll jump directly through to the live demonstration. That being said, as we know, today's subject matter is Copilot for M365. So technically, at the highest level, what is Copilot for M365? So Copilot is basically your right-hand man or woman that will help you with your everyday tasks, all right? It features a bunch of, let's say, tools and capabilities that will help you with your everyday work. At a glance, Copilot can actually be, let's say, integrated into your M365 applications, which we will see in our live demonstration. It is customizable as well through creating agents, and let's just, to keep it simple, agents are maybe chatbots at work for you, and that will be one of the main points of today's live demonstration, where I'll be showing 4 different types of agents encompassing, let's say, grant writing, donor relationship tools, volunteering scheduling, and impact reports. So that will be the customization aspect of Copilot. Copilot's ability to understand your work context also sets it apart from other AI engines because it's already integrated and connected to your ecosystem and to your data. Copilot as well respects the security and privacy measures that are embedded within your organization and which are part of any Microsoft product. Copilot can, and we can glance over this for just a bit, extend to other areas in your business. So it's not just strictly in M365. Copilot has the capabilities to be integrated into CRM systems, ERP systems, even if they're non-Microsoft solutions. We could still have that connectivity feature and the capabilities of this AI engine present in your actual organization. And finally, we've seen through multiple feedback forms and what we've heard back from Microsoft and out of our own experience, this actual tool helps drive the adoption of AI. It's a easy to use tool, and we can actually get the best return on investment when we utilize it to its maximum capabilities. Now, that being said, when I did mention that Copilot is not just, let's say, a one-trick pony, it is extendable. It is integrated into multiple systems as well. It is a whole plethora of things that you could achieve with Copilot, right from starting to learn how to use Copilot M365 and expanding on what you want to do with Copilot dependent on your needs. And what I mean by this is that just to have an overview of Copilot and how it started, we initially had Copilot Chat. Copilot Chat was something of a free version of Copilot, maybe similar to other AI engines like ChatGPT that you might have seen, where you could just basically log your queries or your prompts and get the relevant answer that you're looking for. With Copilot M365, we now have that ability to integrate and connect to your data, which is our main subject matter today. We were able to create customized agents, like I said before, that can serve different types of tasks, such as the ones you see in front of you, from like reconciliation tasks to interpretation tasks, so on and so forth. And then we moved on to the extensibility features of Copilot, where using Copilot Studio and Azure AI Foundry, I won't get too technical, that's above and beyond, let's say, the subject matter today, but we can harness the full power of Microsoft's AI capabilities to integrate to third-party sources, have them more customized, have this engine more tailored, let's say, to the exact needs and the use cases that you might be looking to achieve while using the AI solution. Now, strictly speaking, since we're on Copilot M365, let's just run through again what M365 means. Copilot M365 is these host of applications, meaning that these are the most commonly used ones by any user inside this organization. You're talking about, let's say, the first line, which is something we work with every day, and I think everyone in here uses these sets of applications the heaviest, Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, so on and so forth. But Copilot for M365 is also integrated within, let's say, OneNote, Loop files, Stream, so on and so forth. You'll always see Copilot in these applications constantly being updated and new features rolling out time and time again. Now, all right, the way Copilot works is in two fashions. You have what's called Copilot Web and Copilot Work. And that being said, Copilot Web is similar to, let's say, ChatGPT, since we're taking that as an example, where you are connecting to, let's say, this chat interface, asking relevant questions, prompting Copilot Web to start to give you information that might not necessarily have to do with any type of data that is inside your own organization. So it's querying what you want to find and what information you want to gather and answers you want to receive from this AI solution to get the proper answer back. At the same time, Copilot has something called Work. Copilot Workstation is something that you don't see in other AI engines because that is only present in Copilot, where it is fully embedded into your M365 ecosystem, fetching data, fetching your files, answering relevant questions to your organization and what you're looking for inside those types of data sets strictly related to your organization. Now, I'll briefly brush through what is Copilot's security aspects. If you want, I'll keep it simpler. It's more so talking about the architecture of Copilot that sets it apart from, again, other AI engines. And in reference, I'll keep saying ChatGPT because it's the most commonly known and used one, I guess. That being said, when you are trying to use ChatGPT and you, let's say, upload a sensitive document to ChatGPT, you ask your questions, you prompt ChatGPT based on this document to retrieve the information you're looking for, you'll get the answers you're looking for. But the way ChatGPT works is that it actually retains this information, retains this document that you're talking about, retains the information that you prompted ChatGPT to use, and stores it and uses it to learn from it and to grow from it at the expense of the privacy and sensitivity of this piece of information. While Copilot doesn't work like this. Copilot actually respects the privacy of your documents and your prompts as a whole. So that means when you ask Copilot a question, let's say, and it reaches this large language model, let's just call it the brain of Copilot, and you get your answer back. This just tells Copilot, okay, give me the relative answer. And as soon as the answer is outputted, I won't retain any piece of information, nor the prompt, nor the documents used. Nothing will actually stay or is used by Microsoft to enhance Copilot. All of this data is scrubbed, scratched from the system. It is just processed, used to answer your question, and then never retained again. So now you could start to see the difference between an AI engine such as ChatGPT, which does not have these privacy measures, just takes your information and uses it as it pleases, while Copilot just answers you, keeps your information for yourself, and moves on. So in a nutshell, this is what makes Copilot a responsible and secure AI engine. All right, your data is always secure and remains at rest. And what we mean by rest is that it will remain inside your organization. You're in control of your data, meaning, let's say, not even Microsoft has access to this data, even if you're using the Microsoft 365 Copilot license. Your data will never be used to train the model. The model is always trained on an independent data set, excluding any type of organizational data. And at the end of the day, just like I mentioned, it is protected and abides by the same security measures that any Microsoft application uses. All right. So that is what makes Copilot a responsible and secure AI engine. With these governance pillars respected, the privacy pillars respected, and the security pillars respected, we are now using a safe and secure and responsible AI engine. All right. Now, one last part before I jump to my live demonstrations is some, let's say, tips and tricks that I call for, let's say, a successful journey with using Copilot. All right. And this entails what is called prompt engineering. To keep it simple, it's just to know the best practices of prompting, because through feedback and what I've heard previously is that some users think that, let's say, if they're prompting Copilot, you won't be able, or if you're prompting Copilot and you're not getting the answers that you're looking for, that means Copilot isn't working. It doesn't actually mean that Copilot isn't working. It means maybe you just need to refine the prompt that you use to input into Copilot. And the best practice to do this is to have these 4 pillars that you can see on the screen always respected and maintained. Meaning, have a clear goal in mind when you're prompting. So that means, let's say, I want the objective of my prompt to always be dictated and always be clear in every single time I'm prompting Copilot. Give more context, so the more details that I have in my prompt, the better the output would be. Source information is what you can connect from your own data set into your prompt when you're feeding this prompt to Copilot. This is essential, and we'll see how it's done when we reach the live demonstration in a bit. And expectations, because sometimes expectations could be something like a different language output that you're looking for, or you want the answer to be in a tabular format. It's up to you and how you want this end result to look like. So that being said, maybe prompting and the skill of prompting might be a struggle to a lot of people, even including myself. But Copilot is always there to help you, again, learn how to use it. So meaning you'll see a lot of starter prompts, a lot of sample prompts, a lot of suggested prompts every time you're using Copilot across the whole ecosystem. So it doesn't matter where you are, you'll definitely start seeing how Copilot is there to teach you, let's say, some tips and tricks again on prompting styles or outcomes of some certain prompts. So it's always good to play around with these prompts so you get a better idea of what is and isn't capable when using this AI solution. All right. That being said, I'll move on to my live use cases. Again, just like Steve mentioned in the beginning, if you do have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A section. So let's move on, and I'll share a different screen showing the Copilot user interface. And here we go. So for people that are or aren't familiar with Copilot M365, this is the base interface. So basically, when you get the application downloaded on your workstation or on your mobile, it'll always look the same. It'll look exactly like this, with a prompt box, maybe similar to what you've seen in other AI engines, and some banners on the left that we'll go through in a bit, just so you get a clear idea of what this is about. I'm going to go through it stage by stage, starting with the web station that I mentioned earlier. And this web station is exactly like I mentioned, it's very similar to ChatGPT, maybe something just that isn't connected to your data, but you can ask and you leverage the power of this AI solution to get the relevant answers that you're looking for. So in a nutshell, I just give it one sample prompt, go ahead just to show you that I'm asking it, let's say, for core values of an NGO and the mission statement behind it. It just gives me the most relevant answer using its generative AI capabilities. Now, this is the web station. Again, I'm not going to go through it much anymore because I'm sure most of you are already familiar with how this works. But the workstation is the emphasis of today. This is, again, where I can connect to all my different types of data sources, all right? That means that as soon as you hit the workstation, you'll see something called the plus button, okay? This plus button, all right, is where you could start to add work content. And when I do press add work content, you could see how it's connected to all my different M365, let's say, files. I'll keep it at that. But we could also see how it's connected to the people within my organization. It's connected to the different, let's say, files, like I mentioned, Excel, PowerPoint, Loop files, OneNote files. It's, again, if it's an M365, it's most probably connected. You can also connect it to your different meetings, meaning, let's say you have some recorded meetings you want to ask about, you can go ahead and do it right here and just prompt Copilot to answer the relevant questions about this recorded meetings, as well as emails. Similar manner, you just have these emails attached to the prompt box, and you can start to ask the relevant questions about the body of the email, about the sender of this email, so on and so forth. We'll see these in action in a bit. But to get a better understanding of this workstation, let's try one of the prompts I actually use heavily almost every week, just to check if I've missed anything from my different communication lines. So what does that mean? I asked Copilot to actually summarize my emails and messages from last week, because let's say I was on holiday or I just want to see if I missed something important. And I wanted to actually list these items in a specific format. So I want it to be in a tabular format, just so that it gives me a clearer glimpse into things in a quicker fashion. And Copilot, without me dictating exactly where my emails are or how I wanted to fetch the emails, it just went ahead and did it. You could see here that it was able to procure the different types of communications, emails, let's say, the topics, the summary of this email, any action items, and follow-ups that I need to do based on the type or the category of communication that is mentioned in this table. So this is an example of how I am already leveraging Copilot's M365 capabilities to connect to my ecosystem directly. All right. Let's say another example. Let's start out a new chat. All right. Let's say I want to start leveraging some of my own files. let's say one of my files is called a fundraising event file with some estimation on attendees and probably some profits that I might get from this fundraising event. Now, all I need to do to connect to this document and start to ask the relevant questions about this document is, again, press on this plus sign, add work content, and I can simply either type out a few letters about this document, about the name of the document, or to repeat it again, or if I'm not entirely sure what the name is, but I probably have an idea of where it's located, I could attach cloud files, which would navigate me over towards finding them through, again, looking at my SharePoint library or maybe even my OneDrive. As a disclaimer, something that I didn't mention earlier, all these files for Copilot to be able to interact with them, it's essential that they are on the cloud. So you do need to upload them to at least OneDrive or SharePoint to be able to start, let's say, integrating them with Copilot M365. But going back to the example, I want this fundraising event file. So let me just find this real quick. Fundraising event. And now I want to start to ask relevant questions about this. So I want to say that assuming 50 attendees attended the event, how much money would this raise for my charity? So it starts to give me the breakdown. Okay, so if it's the actual ticket pricing, whatever it's called, estimation scenarios, it gives me a summary table of everything, the key points, and the most important part, the conclusion for me is that I get the maximum I could raise with 50 attendees is £3,000, and that might be exactly what I'm looking for, and that might satisfy what I want to achieve. All right. That's exactly about the connectivity of Copilot to M365 files. Okay. Now, just allow me 1 second. I'll be with you in 1 second, please. I just want to restart Copilot really quick, and I'll come back. Okay, and we are back. Perfect. Now, sometimes Microsoft decides to push updates mid-webinars. And we are good to go again. Okay, so another example of things I could do at the same time when connecting, let's say, data sets together in Copilot chat might look something like the actual, let's say, these types of files. Let me show them to you. I could hop on, gather, let's say, a fundraising event file. I would want to also include a non-profit grant file, let's say. Non-profit, again, my spelling is disastrous. Non-profit grant, and maybe as well a third file at the same time. Let's call it the grant progress tracker. Based on this, what I'm trying to showcase here is that not only did I connect multiple files at the same time, I was able to connect multiple different types of files at the same time to start to ask the relevant questions that I'm looking for. So let's say I want to, one of my key questions are to compare the planned allocation in the grant document to the actual spend recorded in the Excel tracker. So at the end of the day, what I'm looking for is to see where am I doing well, where am I over budget, where am I under budget. This is the main, let's say, task that I want to tackle with Copilot. I might not even have the full knowledge of what these files entail, what they include, what they don't include. But what I'm trying to look at is to speed up this process using Copilot's AI capabilities. So that's my end goal. Another thing that I might tackle as well as a final example using strictly Copilot chat is, again, maybe mentioning people within my organization. So let's say James. James is one of my colleagues. When is my next meeting with James? And can you draft an agenda for that meeting? So what Copilot will do here is not only will it be able to access my calendar, know when my next meeting with my colleague is, but it'll also start to help me draft an agenda based on, let's say, similar email titles, similar meeting titles, past communications with James, anything that might be relevant to such a meeting. It can try its best to come up with an agenda that encompasses what we should talk about within this meeting. So again, it's leveraging both the connectivity and the generative answers it could come up with. Now, this is in terms of using it at, say, at the base level, using Copilot Chat when you're trying to actually get the features from the chat and the work and the web station. But I did mention at the very beginning of my presentation something called customization. And the customization aspect of things comes from creating agents. So you might ask again, what are agents? Agents are just tailored chatbots, if you want to call it that, that are there to execute specific tasks and specific functions over and over and over again, that eliminate that repetitive aspect of your work and replaces it with just an agent that does these repetitive tasks for you. In layman terms, if you want, it's just hiring someone, letting that someone, giving them a job title, giving them a job description, giving them the necessary information and data they need to execute their job in order for them to perform their job and their tasks over and over again. This is exactly translated into how an agent is created. So you'll see here, I have two sections when I pressed on create an agent, the describe section and the configure section. Now, the difference between the two is the configure section is if I want to create the actual agent manually. That being said, I would need to populate the following fields, which are the description, which is quote unquote the title of this person I'm hiring, the instructions, which is quote unquote the job description that I need to place here. Instructions would look something like, let's say, the purpose, the objective behind this agent, the limitations you wanted to abide by, how you wanted to, what information you wanted to source, what type of, let's say, output or expectations it should always look at or abide by. So the more information you feed this instructions section, the better the agent output would be, and the more tailored towards giving you the exact, let's say, answer to your prompts it would be. That is, again, the end goal of having precise instructions. The last part is the knowledge source of this agent. So it's like I said, you're giving this person you're hiring the proper data and the tools it needs to execute its job description. And the knowledge source looks very similar to what I was showcasing in the chat section of Copilot. It is, as soon as I press this banner right here, I can start to connect it to all different types of data sets. Again, PowerPoints, Excels, Words, it doesn't matter. I can connect it to SharePoint sites or SharePoint libraries as a whole. I can connect it to group chats, channel messages, or even meeting chats. Okay, it's up to me. You can also have the ability to connect it to your inbox as a whole, or as well as websites. Maybe you want one specific website or the whole actual online data that's from every website available. When you do create these and you configure them, you'll have your agent up and running. Now, that's when you want to do it manually. When you want to actually go through with it and do it automatically, you'll just hover over to the describe section and literally tell Copilot what kind of agent you're envisioning and what you want this agent to execute and what you want it to do. And Copilot will create this agent for you. As an example, maybe I want to create an agent that assists me in my fundraising event tracking. Let's say that. This is a simple sentence, just for the sake of our own example, that tells you what Copilot will do in the back end. So it will come up with something, it'll start to suggest what you should do next, like assign it a name, and you can keep chatting back and forth with Copilot to further customize your agent. When you do this, it'll automatically configure everything in the back end. So you can see here, all these fields are populated except the knowledge source. It's up to you and what you want to connect to this agent to execute the tasks that you're looking for in terms of having a fundraising event assistant. You'll always see some suggested prompts. Again, these are now pre-populated by Copilot since I asked it to do so. These are just if you want prompts that might be regularly used so you don't have to type them out yourself. You can just keep them under here, and as soon as you open the agent, they'll always be available. Now, when the agent is done and configured, you can just go ahead and create it. And when you do create it, it'll look something like this. So now I'll just go over 4 different types of agents, starting by the following. Let me grab this agent. Okay, this agent, the purpose behind this agent is again having it, it's for grant writing, all right? So it gives you, it uses previous winning proposals, program briefs, budget spreadsheets, so on and so forth. And with a simple prompt, it produces structured sections and cites resources and flags any information missing that is needed to get you this, let's say, final end product of writing a grant form. All right. So it encompasses everything end to end that you would need to use for grant writing or even editing. Okay. So when you see this, as an example, I have again some sample prompts. Why is this helpful even for myself? This is helpful because the agents that you create aren't strictly, okay, going to reside on your tenant. You have the ability and the permission to share them across with other people inside your organization. So if I created an agent, I can configure it, do all the dirty work, and then as soon as I finalize it, I can share it across with Steve, let's say. And then Steve will have the ability to use this agent under 2 conditions. First, he has to have a Copilot M365 license. Second, and most important, is that Steve should have access to the files and the knowledge sources that are connected to this agent. So if Steve does not have the permission to even access these files with or without an agent, he won't be able to use the agent as a whole because Copilot will respect the permission and access rights of all the different types of files that you are using with the agents, especially when you are sharing them across with other people inside your organization. So again, any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll address them afterwards. That being said, for the grant writing agent, okay, I have some sample prompts. These are also helpful when you do share them with users so that, let's say, Steve received this agent for the first time, he could check the actual sample prompts and he could start to know what this agent is capable of. So let's try out this first prompt. It's to draft a 250 executive summary about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever topics that you're looking for. So what Copilot will do, it will assess what I asked. It will look back at the knowledge and the data that's connected to this actual, let's say, agent and come up with the relevant summary that I'm looking for. It also proposes as well what data source it used, and it'll always have some suggested follow-up prompts or things that you might want to prompt Copilot with, such as maybe you want it to be adapted as a full proposal or translated into a different language. This is something just Copilot might think is beneficial for me, so it just throws it up there, and it's up for me to decide if I want to execute this or execute any of the suggested prompts. It's seeing that they might be fit towards what I'm trying to do within this agent. So this is, let's say, one type of agent. Another type of agent would be something for donor relationships. So let's open up this agent called Donor Connect. All right. So let's say this agent, the purpose of it, if it would read our donor data, okay, and it'll instantly segment the reports. It'll also help with drafting, let's say, personalized outreach messages. It understands the data inside, so what are the donor preferences. So if, like, let's say Sarah prefers email, it writes a thank you note based on what Sarah prefers from this data that I've integrated with this agent. So it is just having a tool that manages your relationship with your donors and understands the context and how these donors usually interact and how they work to have a more personalized, let's say, message sent, or let's say whatever type of script or call that I should come up with prior to engaging with a new donor. So these are the type of prompts that I just have up here to execute one or two to show you what I mean exactly, or what can be achieved with this Donor Connect agent. One of them being, let's say, a call script. So I wanted to generate a 60-second call script for top 10 donors, which it will connect to my data and check who are my top 10 donors. And it'll tell me a personalized message that needs to be, let's say, read out loud when you're engaging with the customer over the phone or whatever it is, in order to engage with these donors directly. So here, let's say it looked at David Kim, which is one of the top donors. It told me, it gave me a literal script of what I should speak with this donor within the few 60 seconds that I have when I'm engaging on a call with this person. Same thing goes for the rest of the donors. It went through the top 10 and told me exactly what I need to abide by as a script when engaging with this donor. Another, let's say, example would be, let's say, campaign matching. Let's run that prompt. So I wanted to recommend upcoming campaign best fits and interests for a certain, let's say, donor. It doesn't matter who we're talking about. It'll again check all this data, all right, that we can procure from multiple sources. So here you find that the top 10 donors and recommended campaigns are listed with the lifetime value, any affinity, and recommended upcoming campaigns that I should engage this donor about. This is in terms of having, let's say, an agent for the donor relationship. That is a tool that would help you, again, connect to, let's say, your CRM data, pull out that data, and start to ask relevant questions about these donors. Okay. The third agent I want to showcase is the following, called Volunteers Scheduling Assistant. So this is an agent, okay, we called it Volunteer Sync. It just takes, let's say, it matches skills and availability to fit them into required roles and to have them, let's say, be consistent with our roster. It flags any conflicts that might arise from this matching that I'm looking for. So if two volunteers overlap, it finds the minimal, let's say, swap solution. It can also show a fairness summary to ensure equal distribution of shifts. So it's just helping lay out the actual volunteering schedules and employees and have them, let's say, spread across evenly in a fair manner. One of the things that I might ask this volunteer sync agent to do is maybe just do the scheduling itself for me. I want you to automatically schedule everything based on availability and the skills at hand for each person that is part of my volunteering program. So it'll do exactly that. So it volunteer shift assignment table. So this is the shift, the crew that should be there, who's the person we are talking about. So whether it's Lena, whether it's Maya, whether it's Sarah, so on and so forth. So some unfilled roles summary. So it gives me some things that might not be able to be filled based on the availability of some people or so on. And some, let's say, high-level summaries of any, let's say, rationale it used to do the scheduling and so on. Again, don't forget, there will always be some sort of follow-up by Copilot on and some suggested actions that can be done after it has executed the prompt you're asking. One final agent I will showcase for today is the actual impact report agent. Let's pull that one up. And that would be impact insight agent right here. Okay, this impact insight agent, it's designed for the leadership teams, all right? It reads like the different Excel files, the different project data, the funds used, the beneficiaries, so on and so forth, and instantly builds impact insight. That means it tells us which projects delivered the most, let's say, results. It tells us, let's say, what is the most beneficial project that we should chase again. It's something, if it's something is missing is out or outdated, it highlights data gaps. All of this is done within this agent connected to our actual data files. So maybe I want to look at the cost efficiency. So I want to calculate cost per beneficiary. Again, that will just hop onto my own data, fetch the relevant information I'm looking for, and start to answer it based on, let's say, the regions, the actual different types of beneficiaries, and give me the score to tell me who is, again, the best, to calculate the best beneficiary per region. So the outcome score is all I care about, and that's what I move forward with. I hope, I guess, the actual point of agents are clear, but as a nutshell, agents are just there to do these designated tasks. Copilot Chat, on the other hand, is for everyday tasks that you might want to fulfill using Copilot as your personal assistant in order to execute these tasks. Okay, and that being said, I will move on from the Copilot user interface and jump towards something that we would see inside different types of Microsoft applications. And let me open up this file. Give it 1 second. So I'll hop on to Excel, since again, I'll just showcase Copilot's capabilities in the most common suite of applications, which also encompasses Excel to begin with. In Excel, what we're looking at here is, let's just call it dummy data, like I mentioned. And the point behind the dummy data is that it is just there for the sake of our example today to execute a couple of tasks in Copilot. And when you do have, let's say, your application open, you do have that Copilot license, you will be able to see it up top to the right. All you have to do is press on the drop-down menu and start App Skills. When you do this, let it just load. You can start chatting with your data using Copilot. Now, let me just take a couple of simple examples. Maybe I just want for Copilot to calculate the average donation per donor for each event, okay? Because, let me just run this prompt. This is exactly what my data is about. Some donors, the funds raised from these donors, and so on. So instead of doing this work manually, I just want Excel to do it for me. And what Copilot will always show me is the actual formula it used to execute this file and the actual preview of the calculation before I insert it myself. So if I'm happy with it, I go ahead and insert the column. If I don't want this data anymore, I just go ahead and remove it, or I don't insert it to begin with. It's up to me and what I'm looking for from this data set. So this is one type of example. Maybe I wanted to look for specific data, meaning I wanted to list all events held in Los Angeles, along with the total funds I received from this event. This is something that is of my concern to me. So I'm going to ask Copilot to do this research inside this file for me instead of doing the labor myself. So we'll give it a second to load. And what you'll see here is that for the best fundraising events in Los Angeles, or the total of these fundraising events, were the back to school event with this amount and the disaster relief fund with this amount, so on and so forth. So Copilot was able again just to fetch this insight really quick. This is trying to use Copilot in simple terms, but having Copilot, let's say, get more advanced results, you need to ask Copilot to start the advanced analysis mode. Meaning, I go ahead and tell Copilot start advanced analysis mode. What it'll do is it'll make sure that I want to go ahead and execute this advanced analysis function. If I'm ready to go, all I have to do is press start. What it'll do now is interpret the data in the backend. We don't really need to know why or the technicalities of how this is done. This just executes them for me, and now I can start to ask more complex questions, maybe such as visual dashboards, analysis needs, forecasting needs. This is the point of using the advanced analysis mode of Excel. So maybe one of them is summarize the key trends in event fundraising performance. So I want to know, where is my trend? Where am I doing right? Where am I doing wrong? So this might give me this quick insight that I'm looking for. Even if you're actually not even aware of what you could do with the Copilot advanced analysis features, I can ask Copilot to tell me what it can provide for me in this advanced analysis mode. So I'll just let this prompt run real quick, and then I'll show you exactly what I mean. Let the preview finish, and we're almost there. All right, so at the end, it was trying to tell you that across all events, this is the actual trend, this is the performance, this is what the donors are contributing, and this is, let's say, the quick insight that I need in terms of summarizing the fundraising metrics that I'm looking for. As well, you could see some of the visuals Copilot already suggested is to visualize maybe the net profit and trends over time. This might also be beneficial for me to directly understand the data at hand, make quicker decisions, and it's up to me and how I want to use this data. So let's say at this date, this is how much funds I got, this is the profit that I'm losing over here towards the end of or towards the beginning of this year. It's up to me and what kind of visuals I would want to take out of this Excel data, or what type of, let's say, comparisons I want to execute, what type of different analysis or forecasting that I want to do. It's contingent on what I want to do and the availability of this information in the data set. So again, just to be clear, some questions that I might ask Copilot to execute based on this data set might not be available because the data set is lacking. It has also to relate to the data set at hand. Well, I hope that point is clear. Now, I'm going to jump and show you some features of Copilot in Teams. So let me just pull up a random Teams meeting. And open this one up. So, if everyone is aware that when the meeting is being transcribed and recorded, or at least transcribed, we have the ability to view this meeting after it has been concluded, to probably watch the recap of this meeting. And when I do watch the recap of this meeting and I open that view recap link, it takes me to such a page, okay, just as a sample. This page shows a 360 overview of the meeting, meaning who are the speakers that are, it's color coded so you know when this person was speaking and when they weren't, the topics discussed, which are also color-coded, so you know when they started and when they stopped, and the chapters that are time-stamped, so you can directly jump to that specific section that you're asking about or looking for in this video or even in this transcription. You'll also have the key points and subpoints and some follow-up tasks that are always available in this recap, which was made by the AI summary. But where Copilot kicks in is its ability to get full context and awareness of this meeting as if you were chatting with someone that was part of this meeting and participated in it end to end. Meaning, let's say one of the most common things that I do after I've concluded one of the meetings is to generate the minutes and send them across to whomever I engaged with. So now with the benefits and the features of Copilot, you could start to see the generation of the minutes of meeting automatically done simply by prompting Copilot to generate them for me. And what it does is that it will tell me the meeting title, the agenda that was discussed, key points, actions that need to be done, any long-term budgetary strategies that were also discussed, and the action items that need to be tackled as soon as possible as part of this meeting. Other questions that I might be able to ask it are the ability for Copilot to detect questions that were asked. So I can ask Copilot to what were the questions raised during this meeting. This way, Copilot will jump into the questions into the meeting, all right, and it has the ability to identify who and what are the questions that were raised by all the speakers. For the sake of this example, it was just me and my colleague and it still was able to detect the 10 questions that were asked across the both of us. You can ask it again. You'll always see here some follow-up questions to summarize key concerns raised, maybe highlight questions, follow-ups, compile them into a Q&A summary table. I can even ask it to translate this to, let's say, French, for example. If you want to switch up the languages, you can simply just tell Copilot to do so, and it'll generate the output that you're looking for. Maybe you want to send it to strictly French speakers. It's up to us and what language we want the output to be in. Okay. Another feature of Copilot is Copilot in Outlook. So let me just pull up some dummy data and we'll go from there. So as you can see here, there's a back and forth with one of my colleagues, okay, in a long email thread that is maybe exhaustive, maybe too long for me to read, and maybe is going to waste my time instead of actually going through and reading it all. I can simply ask Copilot to do and generate the summary for me. And almost instantaneously, it was able to come up with a 5 or 6 line or a 6-sentence summary that would encompass all of the information shown in this email. Now, this is great, again, to just get you a quick recap of everything that was mentioned, but don't forget you have the same features available when we're using Copilot Chat, the actual base application of Copilot. I can reference it to an email and ask the same question to summarize this email. I could do the same thing that I just did within Microsoft Teams. I could reference it to a Teams meeting and ask it to generate the minutes of meeting, for example. This is why I stress on the importance of the Copilot Chat application, because it is connected and has the features that are within each application, all centralized within this single interface that I'm on right now. But to continue with our example, let's say I would want to schedule a meeting with all the people that are part of this email chain. I can simply ask Copilot to schedule the email for me. It'll check the soonest, let's say, availability because I didn't specify any availability or time slots to Copilot. It'll specify the soonest availability based on our working hours and tell us, okay, me and my colleague are available at 5. That's the soonest, so we can meet by then. Maybe, let me discard this one. Maybe the most important feature of this is actually having Copilot answer the questions or answer the emails for me. And what I need to do is simply reply to this email and start with pressing the Copilot button to the left. It'll always show you some suggested contextualized prompts that I might want to use to answer the email below. And there are the generic answers that I might also want to use. But I want to abide by what I am looking for as an answer. So I would ask Copilot to simply tell me, let's say, thank Naji, tell him to prepare the updated financials and tell him to look into next year's demands. Whatever it is, just for the sake of the example, it'll come up with something relevant based on this one-liner that I gave it. If I'm happy with it, I can keep it. If I'm not, I can discard it. Or if I want to make further edits, I can just simply ask Copilot to do this for me. One type of edit, again, could be the translation function. So translate this to French, maybe, is something that is very commonly used. So that way, if you're not a native speaker of French, you can just simply have Copilot do the speaking for you. This is in terms of using Copilot in Excel. Now, we have 25 minutes left. I would start to address the questions maybe. If we still have some time, I glance over the remaining questions or the remaining set of applications. And that would be starting from the bottom.
Ray, thank you. I've actually been answering a lot of the questions as we've been going along. The latest one, which I haven't got round to, well, there's actually two questions that have come up. So the first one is in relation to licensing. So a lot of people asking the sort of key differences between Copilot Chat, which is the free version, and the Microsoft 365 paid for version. So I don't know if you could just elaborate on that for us.
Perfect. All right. I'm going to take the screen again. Right. This is honestly the most ideal question that is posed quite frequently because it makes sense that some people would be confused between the free and the paid version. What the free version would encompass is the following. The free version would encompass the web chat strictly, meaning you won't be able to connect to your data files just like I can freely do in the workstation. You would only be able to ask questions about, let's say, questions to this AI solution to generate, again, the answers that you're looking for, whether you're using the intelligence of the AI program or whether you're telling it to use a source or an online source. You could have the ability to manually upload your files, but it won't access them automatically. It's as similar as ChatGPT. It's almost, yeah, it's as similar as you can think. That's the point of having the free version. You'll also be missing out on the actual GPT-5 engine that is now embedded in the free version, that is not embedded in the free version yet. So that's another thing that you won't be seeing in the free version. You won't also be seeing in the free version these multiple pre-orchestrated agents by Microsoft. So if you hover over here to all agents, you have the pre-built agents by Microsoft, which are such as the research or analyst agent. To give you a brief about the capabilities of these agents, I could have it again, let's say, analyze heavy data sets. So if I'm asking it for an Excel type of file to do some heavy analysis about this type of file, you won't be able to use these agents. While leveraging them is very important to me because let's say for this type of example, you have an Excel file with some different types of figures related to some analysis I want to do regarding to one of my charity events. I was able to run it by the analyst agent, and it gives me the full insight of campaign totals, donation amounts, cost per beneficiary, so on and so forth. This is the actual execution of a task in the analyst agent, which isn't present as well. in the free version. Same goes for the researcher. These are, I'm emphasizing these two pre-built agents for the sole reason that they are the most used by, from the ones that Microsoft has pre-configured. Another example from the researcher is maybe it's as almost like you're doing a research paper from scratch. I'm simply telling Copilot what I want to research about. Let's say here it's the current state of UK charities in 2025. And you can see the extensive information that it has provided me all the way up, all the way down to the bottom with all the data sources it used to compile this information in a very well-structured report. Another key difference as well, so I'm laying out everything that might be different between the free and the paid version. Another key difference is that in the paid version, I have the create tool. The create tool is there to leverage creating, let's say, images, creating videos, infographics. It's up to me and what I want to create with this actual visual creator tool. So maybe I want to create a video. All I need to do is go over to the create video section, type out my prompt. So maybe I want to showcase an inspiring video of the impact of UK charities, and it'll start to generate this for me from scratch. This is some, if you want, overall differences, but the main difference is that you won't have access to the actual work chat. And this work chat is essential because it's already seamlessly integrated with your files. It understands what your files already are talking about. It understands your meetings. It understands the people and the whole host of information you have access to within your organization. So there is no need for me to upload anything. It's already connected to Copilot, and I can start to ask questions about it. Plus, you won't see the features of Copilot in any of the applications that I was just showing. So Teams meetings, like I was just showcasing here, getting the summary, you won't have that. Copilot in Excel, we won't have that. So there's a lot of differences because the base version is just simply having this web interface chat and that's it. The work version and the paid version is exactly what I've been showing throughout the course of my demonstration. It's everything that encompasses agents, Copilot in Excel, for example, the actual connectivity aspect of things. These are important to leverage in order to get the best out of this M365 license. I'm sorry for the exhaustive answer, but there's a whole plethora of differences. That's why I went through everything again.
Thanks, Ray. One of the other questions that a lot of people are asking is what is the difference between Copilot, Chat, Copilot 365 and something like ChatGPT that you can use?
Okay, so let's say Copilot Chat and other AI engines, is that the main concern, or is there a specific question?
It's more as what's the difference between just using ChatGPT, using Copilot, or using a business version of ChatGPT? People are asking, is it the same?
So, okay, that's a fair point to always raise. Now, the two main differences I always highlight between, let's just keep the base version of Copilot license and the actual free version of ChatGPT, let's say, since we're mentioning ChatGPT, is that in Copilot, you have the connectivity aspect of things that I was just mentioning in my previous question, how it's already integrated across the M365 suite of applications and how it's already interpreting, understanding, and fetching the necessary data when you're asking it questions about your internal data, meaning files, meetings, people, so on and so forth. While ChatGPT lacks that feature, it isn't integrated into your M365 applications. It's on the side. You have to prompt it with the relevant files. You have to probably, let's say, as an example, download the recording of a meeting you had, upload it to ChatGPT, and let it start to interpret and transcribe everything for you to generate the minutes of meeting, which is a hectic process. At the same time, that's one difference. At the same time, the second difference is the security aspect of things. If you're not using the business version of ChatGPT, and you're using the base version, which is readily available to everyone, you will run or hit a wall, which is the security and protection of your data. Because if I'm using, let's say, one of my internal documents that are supposed to be for a customer, and I'm uploading it to ChatGPT, for example, and this document has a lot of sensitive information about my customer, but I just want a quick summary about it, so I'm asking ChatGPT to do it. Now ChatGPT will retain this information. It won't expose it publicly, but it'll use it and learn from it to grow and enhance its engine at the expense of the privacy of this information. Now, you might look at it and go like, oh, okay, if it's not exposing it publicly, then what's the issue? It still means that this sensitive piece of information has now been leaked outside of your organization, and we want to avoid this. And the way we avoid this, if we want to leverage an AI solution, is we will use Copilot M365 because it's designed to process the information that you're using and then just give you the answer and scrub all that processing and all the data it used to get you the answer afterwards. So these are the two main differences. In summary, it's the connectivity aspect of things and the security aspect of things.
Thanks, Ray. The next question is, when you were showing the agents earlier, is this all available in Copilot 365? Is it additional for Copilot Studio? And does everybody who's accessing it need a license to access that information?
Okay, so what I was showing in terms of the agents at hand, let me reshare my screen, makes explaining simpler. So the agents that I've built, if you could see here, I have a whole bunch of agents that I've created over time. These are just some of them. These are available with your Copilot M365 license. You'll have the chance to create such agents. The agents that will come with the Copilot M365 license are the ones that are pre-built by Microsoft. Anything else, you can start to leverage and create them using, again, the capabilities that I just showed you, whether it's the describe section or the configure section. Now, when you are looking at, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, the second part was relating to connecting it to third-party sources, or what was the second part of the question?
Is in relation to licenses. Does everybody who accesses this have to have a license? And maybe just giving people a real high level overview of the difference between this 365 Copilot agent and Copilot Studio, because that's another form of AI technology that we haven't really touched on.
Fair. So the Copilot, in order to access it, yes, you need to leverage these agents. Everyone needs to have that Copilot M365 license. If you do create these agents, firstly, if you have the free version, you have the ability to create an agent, but its features and its capabilities are insignificant compared to what you see when you're using the Copilot M365 paid version of agents. You also won't be able to share them. You won't be able to connect them to any type of data sources. So it'll stop right here. Now, when we're brushing over, let's say, Copilot Studio, which is another subject matter, let's say the difference between Copilot M365 and Copilot Studio is that Copilot Studio has the ability to connect to third-party sources. So let's say part of your organization, you use SAP, you use Oracle, or any other non-Microsoft application, you could start to leverage Copilot Studio and create agents in Copilot Studio that connect to these data sources that are not within the M365 ecosystem and build on top of these data sources and create agents using Copilot Studio to execute tasks such as the ones that I was just showcasing with the agents that I've built connected to M365 data. On top of that, Copilot Studio also has some automation features, such as, let's say, if you want emails sent out on a regular basis, Copilot Studio has the ability to create, let's say, automated flows inside the agent that execute these tasks for you. So basically, in summary, it can connect to these third-party sources outside of the Microsoft ecosystem, as well as, let's say, generate some automation aspects for, let's say, recurring needs that you want Copilot to automatically push out without you having to go through the process yourself. So these are the main differences, if you want, in a nutshell.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ray. There's another question here about using Copilot and the internet to potentially identify funders. I could actually answer one. We've done some work with an organisation called Charity Excellence, and we have created just that type of solution for them, but not using Microsoft 365 Copilot, but using Copilot Studio that Ray was talking about. That gives us the ability to not only attach databases, so we may have our own databases that highlight funders, we can also connect it to websites, we can also scrape information from the web, and we can use that to scrape those data sources and identify what funding is available, and the agent can then assess how relevant that funding is for a particular charitable organisation, and then start to score that funding and the type of success you would have if you made an application. So yes, that technology is there and it's available. Ray, the next question we have is that somebody who's using Copilot at the moment has found that the wording of emails isn't reflective of them or their organisation, even if they change it to be informal. Does Copilot learn from from your personal style over a period of time, or is it pulling from an LLM, a large language model?
So for the email criteria specifically, okay, let me share this part of the screen. Or before I do so, it is pulling from an LLM. Don't forget, this is a generative AI. The training aspect of things is that, for me, let's take myself as an example. Every time I ask Copilot a question, it knows probably the follow-up question that I will ask it. The sort of format it answers me with would be different every single time, because don't forget, this is a generative AI. But specifically for Outlook, since people have previously raised your concerns in terms of replying to email messages, there's something called customized drafts in Copilot in Outlook. So let me share my screen again. So this is a custom instruction panel that you could tell Copilot, okay, and you instruct it with these actual instructions, and it'll probably abide by them every time you suggest a reply that you want Copilot to formulate. So here is some things that you would tell Copilot, such as the tone, the length, the greeting, the usual message that you abide by, maybe some welcoming note at the bottom of it. These are instructions that you would input into Copilot in Outlook, and afterwards, I would be able to, every time I ask Copilot to generate email or the body of email from my draft message, it'll customize it based on the instructions that I fed into Outlook. I hope that helps. I would suggest trying it out, because that's something that people always want to tackle, the way their tone is or the way they usually answer. So this is why this exact section in the settings of Copilot in Outlook was created.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Ray. The next question, again, which I can probably answer, the agents that we've shown today aren't available. They're specific charity agents that we have created. So if you bought a Copilot license, you wouldn't see them there and available to you. They're specific agents that we have created for the charity sector. If it's something of interest, by all means, we provide our details. More than happy to have a conversation about that. Ray, the next question, can Copilot create an interactive checklist, a project schedule from its summarized key actions and meetings, a little bit like a project management tool, for example, Asana?
So you would be able to do that when you leverage an agent. Now, interactive, I would say it's interactive at the level of the agent interface. So meaning when you have that agent opened up, you fed it, let's say, the project status, the milestones that were hit or aren't hit, the people involved in this. You could chat with this agent, feed it in the backend the necessary information for this agent to start to come up with the relative answers based on your question. So you would have that, let's say, project status tracker tool, okay, which is an agent in order to ask or answer the relevant questions, or even ask it for its opinion on where to, let's say, designate resources at any point in time. So you could do that when you are leveraging the capabilities of Copilot in an agent. It's all about having it configured and set up the right way to achieve what you're looking for, which is, let's say, again, project tracking, project summarizing, project analysis, so on and so forth.
Brilliant, thank you. There's a question in there about Copilot and Copilot Studio, which hopefully we've given you the answer to the differences between those two. Ray, next question. On the free version of Copilot, if they're pulling information from the web, is this information up to date or is it using old information?
Okay, the actual benefit of Copilot, and I think this far more surpasses ChatGPT, that it gives you the latest information that is up to date from the web, whether you're asking it about, let's say, something that happened yesterday, all the way up to whatever time frame that you're looking for. And that's the benefit. It isn't, let's say, cut off at a certain date, and it only fetches information from that date backwards. So no, it's giving you the latest information that you're looking for.
Perfect. The next question is, can we integrate Microsoft 365 Copilot with our organization server, or must we upload all of our files to OneDrive?
Dependent on which type of server are you using. If you're using, let's say, an Azure SQL server, you can have your IT admin configure that and allow permission for Copilot agents to connect to the servers. If you're talking about some type of other different types of servers, things that probably are not related to Microsoft, then you would need something which is Copilot Studio to be able to have those connectivity features and those APIs linked to that server. And in the front end, you would link Copilot Studio to Copilot M365 and start chatting with your data from that server directly, even if it is a non-Microsoft related product.
Yeah, I think, and just to add to that, Copilot is more of a cloud-based technology. So when Ray says about servers, we're not really talking about on-premise servers. We're talking about hosted servers or infrastructure in the cloud rather than on-premise. So yeah, just to be clear there, this is a cloud technology. And the final question that we've got, would I require Copilot Studio as well as 365 to connect my CRM outside of Microsoft?
Could you repeat that, Steve? Sorry, it just cut off from my end. Excuse me.
Yeah, sure. I'm looking to connect to CRM, which is outside of Microsoft. Would I need Studio as well as 365 Copilot?
So if you want to connect to the CRM system that you're talking about, you would need Studio. But then it's all about what you want to do when you connect to this CRM system. If you want to create a chatbot or one of the agents that you're looking for, you could simply stop at Copilot Studio, but the interface would be a web portal that is maybe something that the end user doesn't want to go through with. But usually, in terms of my experience, what I've seen is that the CRM is there, use Copilot Studio to connect to that CRM, and in the front end, the user interface for the end user would be Copilot M365. In the back end, it would be Copilot Studio connected to that CRM application or CRM system. So it's up to you, but usually, out of experience, it's usually the Copilot M365 in the front end, Studio account connected to the CRM in the back end.
Perfect. And the next question we've got, which again I can probably take, is in relation to pricing. So somebody's asked here, does Microsoft offer a not-for-profit pricing for Copilot? What they're looking at says £23 a user a month plus VAT on a yearly basis. So Microsoft does have a charitable rate for Copilot licenses. It's not hugely discounted. In actual fact, they are running an offer of a 15% discount currently for the corporate version, which actually works out cheaper with that discount than the charity version. Excretech buy our licenses directly from Microsoft, and one of the things that we do is we give our commission that we get on licenses for charities back to charitable organisations. So we can provide Copilot licenses for just over £19 a user a month. And that's the same with any Microsoft licensing. So if anybody's currently purchasing Microsoft licensing, we can almost guarantee that we can provide that cheaper because we give back our commissions to any charities that we work with. I think that is everything from a Q&A perspective. We're a couple of minutes early, but pretty good timing. Just one more shout. I don't know if anybody's got any other questions before we close the Q&A. Nope, I think that's everything. So really just a thank you to Ray for your time and the presentation you've given, Hugh, for the insights with regard to the charity sector. And yeah, we will be hosting more of these. So we'll share invites out. We'll be doing another webinar next month. That's going to be on security for the charity sector. Again, all around Microsoft security services for charities. So hopefully it's been of value to everybody. And yeah, hopefully we'll catch up with everybody next month. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining. Have a good day.